Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast about Prince, podcast on Prince. Damn it, I don't even know what the show is called no more, but we talk about Prince here. My name is Michael Dean. We're going to be talking about the new Kim Berry book that just came out. We'll give our thoughts on that. But joining us today, Mr. Bigsexy and Saxer. How are you?
I'm sick.
All right. Damn, you all right over there? You sound mad or something.
No.
Exactly.
No, I'm cool.
All right, we just doing a show, sir. We just doing a show. All right, also joining us today is Kanisa, all the way from Muse to the Pharaoh. How you doing, Kanisa?
I'm okay. I'm hungry, so yeah, we'll see how this goes.
All right. And our special guest today, I believe he's in LA today, Mr. Dave Hampton. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing great, but I'm on the phone with sick, tired, and hungry. So,
man, y'all gonna make me look bad.
Yeah,
everybody's sick, tired, or hungry. God damn. Well,
man, do y'all read the book too?
Wow. It's starting early. All right.
Just kidding, folks.
Well, let's just we don't want to waste no time. I know the people want to hear what we thought. Now, I want to start with Kanisa. Kanisa, you have actually one of the first reviews that I saw of the book online. So I want to hear your thoughts on Kim Berry's book, Diamonds and Curlz.
Yeah, so I was one of the ones who actually donated to the GoFundMe back in the day, because I had met Kim a couple of times around Minneapolis, like right after everything happened, and she seemed very, personable and nice and everything. I was like, yeah, I'll support her. So the book I was expecting to be, because, I'm a natural hair person, I wanted to hear about hair products, cute stories and things like that based on what she was telling people, and it turned out to be not quite that. It started cool because you're hearing about how she became a hairstylist and how that worked for her in her past, and then it turned into a little bit something else, because I noted in my review there's talking about things that happened to you, and then there's talking about things that you saw, your perspective of things that you saw. And when you're writing books like that, it's very important to more talk about your situations that you had a direct influence or things that happened to you, rather than kind of like talking of kind of just saying what you saw, because it comes across as gossip or hearsay. And I feel like it kind of fell in that later category. So I was disappointed from an overall point of view, because I didn't get to know what I wanted to hear about. It's not the reason why I got her book.
All right, interesting. Did you enjoy the book, or did I'm going to ask you this: how did it stack up to other Prince books that you have read?
For books like that, I always hold my thesis to standard, because as much as it was about her and how she interfaced with Prince, but it wasn't about. She didn't spend a lot of time talking about he did this and that and this, of stuff she wasn't involved in. So the balance was there. And for the other kind of like girlfriend books or things like that, it was about the same. I'm thinking of The Purple Rained on Me by Mickey White. I kind of put her on the caliber of Kim's book, because it was a lot of her perception of what she saw and talking about other things that she saw or other people who were around, but it wasn't about her. So I kind of put that on the same level. All right. And it was just as, scandalous as well.
Okay. Bigsexy. Sir,
Yes.
what did you think of the book? What were your takeaways and thoughts?
Well, there are a lot of things around this book that were, kind of weighing it. I don't say weighing it down, but that were already talking about. That was terrible English too. The main concern that I had was the length. If you're going to talk about a relationship, friendship, business, or otherwise, that lasts 29 years, it should take a lot more than 121 pages. Of those pages, 20 or so are pictures, and of the remaining pages, I'd say 35% is one particular story that I'm not going to get into. Having said that, I don't think she made it personable enough. When she opened up talking about, California and high school and how she got into hair and who introduced her, that was good because it was talking about her. And it's like Nisi said, then it becomes, well, I heard this and I heard that. No, that's not for you to get into. And it didn't span enough time for me. Again, we have a 29-year relationship. There are so many things that I was expecting to hear about that I did not hear about. And I'll go a step further. Part of it, the one story that took the bulk of the book, a lot of that could have been plagiarized. Yeah, I said it because it was available in another setting. I noticed at the end of the book, there's a long list of donors and whatnot through the GoFundMe apparatus that she had set up. And I've never done a crowdsourcing thing before, but if you're going to produce a book and you're going to rack up all this money, and I don't know what her goal was, I don't know what she got, but they could have done a better job than this. Now, I only saw the book through the PDF Kindle format. Someone's knocking at my door, and I don't give a shit. And a lot of the pictures just looked grainy and just didn't look right. Now, if that changes in the print version, so be it. But as far as the print version goes, if a consumer is going to pay $25 for a 121-page book, that's a problem for me. That's a big problem.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give my thoughts, and I'm gonna go to Dave, because I think Dave, I have an interesting perspective. So I want to end with him on just the thoughts. But in terms for me, I was excited to read the book. Like, I was really anticipating wanting to read this. Obviously, Kim has been on this show before. She's, to me, was always a great storyteller, and her personality. So I was just like, I can't wait to see, she goes in depth and really, put some good stuff in this book. And, I wasn't a donor and that type of thing, but it appeared on the Kindle on the 17th, and it was a part of the free Kindle plan. So I didn't have to pay for it per se. Loaded it up, jumped in. And at first I was like, this is okay. This is kind of cool. It's going into her history of, a young lady, South Central, going to school. And I was relating to some of that stuff because I liked, was sort of that early kind of, I could see like how the hip hop thing was sort of in the background of a lot of things we were going through it during those years. And, she's talking about her relationships and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is cool. You're going to really get to see the journey of, her kind of going through her thing. And some of this I had heard before, right? And then, it starts getting into some Prince stuff. And I'm like, of course, at the end of the day, that's why we're here. I mean, Prince is on the cover of that book. So it can only be so much about her story. Was gonna obviously about Prince because that's what's on the cover. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm reading this. And some of the things that are in there, I was like, damn, this is kind of interesting because she, started talking about Prince's relationship with his mother. There was things said about his mother that I wasn't really up on per se. I was like, well, okay, interesting, And then it gets into, in particular, I'll say like the Maite, gets into talking about Maite and their marriage and the pregnancy and stuff. Again, these are things that I've read in Maite's book. I will say that these are things that are super like personal type things. And I got to tell you how I take this into context of how I read this. On one hand, as a Prince fan, it's somewhat fascinating to me, even though I've heard some of the stuff before. If I disassociate myself, say I don't know any of these people or anything like that, and just I'm interested to hear things about Prince and stuff that you don't normally hear, I was like, whoa, this, okay, man, this is crazy. It's interesting, da-da-da-da. The other hand, I have to think of it as if it was my life, and I had to personalize it, man, if that was my child, and I personally went through that, and it was, and I'm not saying this would happen, but I was saying if it was like Nisi or somebody or Bigsexy, right, and they wrote a book about me,
Q-Storm.
Yep.
Here you go. But if they wrote a book about me, and and I was gone, and they was talking about like, I don't know, I guess my ex-wife or my child that wasn't here, that would be a major problem. Now, of course, if I was gone, ain't nothing I could do about it, but I would assume that's my people's, and they would be way out of pocket. Speaking of something like that, I'm just keeping it a buck. Like, that's just a little funny style. Having said that, as a fan, it was interesting reading that stuff. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to read it, but I was like, wow, okay. She's going there. Where I'm reading it. I didn't put the book down and stop reading, so I'm going there too, because the book's not forcing you to read this stuff, right? Let's be clear. So I'm reading that, and I'm like, okay. But then here's the thing that really, as a reader, I was kind of like, huh? Once you get past that part, and then it goes into this like, hey, I could tell you some stories about some other stuff. I could tell you about this, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, cool. These other chapters, and for some reason I had happened to click away from the book. Like, you could click on the book on the Kindle and it'll minimize it, but it'll show you your position in the book. And I looked down and it was like toward the end point almost to the book. I was like, huh? I was like, how? There's got to be way more left in this book because I just started reading it. It can't be over. But sure enough, the book wraps up. Like, just sort of almost an abrupt sort of, it's over. I got more things to tell you. And that's my second major problem. I was like, I want a full meal. Like, I ordered 2 appetizers. You gave me 2 appetizers. Was good. Some of it was good. Some of it I had before. But where the rest of the food? And you saying I got to come back. You didn't even tell me when I'm supposed to come back, but I didn't get to come back and eat all the food yet. So I was kind of like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way in a sense of I wanted a full book. I just didn't feel like I got that. But what I did read, again, as a Prince fan, I was in it reading it. I was there. I just didn't feel like there was enough on the plate for all the buildup. And we've heard Kim tell stories before, so we know she can tell stories, has great personality and stuff. So I was just expecting all of that. I even just wanted to hear the rest of her journey. Like, there's things mentioned in the book, like the hair salon and different things. I said, okay, well, what happened with that? Maybe that's going to be explained later. Obviously she has a daughter in this book during this time. How did that work out? Or what happened later? Or what is she doing now? And just, you don't get a full plate. And again, I'm only saying this because the book, as far as I know, isn't presented to me as a serialized autobiography, which is something I ain't never seen before. But that's how it felt to me, because I'm like, okay, this ain't Netflix. I'm not binge reading books unless you put them all out at the same time. So I was thrown off by that. So that's my thoughts on this book. Dave Hampton. Now let me tell for the Prince fans who know, for some of the not so into Prince fans, let me tell you, go look up Dave Hampton on our past episodes. Dave worked with Prince, technical director at Paisley Park. His resume is extensive. You take the Prince part out, his resume, he worked with the greats, still in the game. His name is still out there. You mentioned Dave Hampton, they be, oh, you know that? He's one of those cats. So he's not just he ain't just, a fan I got on the line, or Dave carries weight, right? He's worked with Prince. So, and you know Kim. And also, yeah. I want to say that, there is a collective, there is a family of sorts of alumni who have all worked with Prince in different capacities over the years throughout the career, and they have united and created a great organization that they do a lot of charitable work and, you know, hold each other down. So it'll be interesting to hear your perspective with all of that as well, because Kim, as far as I understand, is a part of this organization. All of y'all are. So I'm just curious, what were your thoughts on this book, sir?
You know, I hear what each one of you are saying, and you know, I got the doc, as like I said, when my phone started going off and people were sending me various things. And so I sat down and read it, and then read it again, and you know, there were some parts of it where I'm kind of shocked, just because of there's a common courtesy that all of us have, or at least some of us, that when it comes to Prince and his life, we've just made it our choice that there are certain things that we don't. You know, we don't go near, and we don't deal with that, and we don't touch it. It's just not a house subject, right? Mm-hmm. I've always tried to give Maite and his relationship the respect and thing that it deserves, and everything it deserves, because that's her story to tell, just as it is for Manuela and her time with him, and it's her story to tell. It's not for any of us to kind of get in there and, oh, this is what I saw, this, you know, because we're only seeing half of what we really think. And then when we relay it, it's really out of context, because when you're a person who works in and around the private lives of the people that you provide service for, it is a very trusted area. And so even when they go beyond the earthly realm, you still have an obligation to how you handle that time that was just between the two of you. At least the way that I and others look at it. It's very easy to say, well, he's gone now, I can just say what I want. You know, that's kind of loosey-goosey, and it does not do this situation in particular any good, because there's a lot of people who are saying a lot of things. Some of them never even knew him. So when you've had the fortune to spend time with him, and you have that kind of story to tell, I think you owe it to him, his legacy, his family, and those people who were involved, and then the things that you were allowed to view. You got to edit yourself, you know. I just wonder what the edit process was, having written many books and having written many articles and responded to many questions. The edit process is always extensive, because once you put something out, you have the sum total of your intelligence on display. So what happens is that you have to say, what am I trying to say, and how am I saying it, and is it clearly understood to the people who know Prince and know of Prince, and is this understood to somebody who may not know this person at all? And so there's a lot of different ways that you can edit yourself, or even Michael, you know as well, if I'm doing something and I have a question about it, I may even call you, or I'll call someone else in the fan family and say, hey, I'm doing these questions and I just need to know if this comes out okay, because we're in a different time, and the time after he's gone is just as important as the time he was here, because the words that we say penetrate and they stay a long, long time. In particular, like I said, I didn't really enjoy the things when anybody, Kim or anybody, breaches that thing and talks about, you know, their family situation and the loss of their child. I just think that's something that, if she's already dealt with it in her book, and that's, to me, that's the highest point that you can go. I think I don't need to say anything else about it. I just it's an uncomfortable subject, and it's, you know, yeah, you can say what you feel about anything, but at a certain point, why this is their special relationship with anybody who's in love. What other people call love is not for us to question. We all have friends that we could go in their home, and the dance that they call love might not be understandable to us, but it's understandable to them. So, you know, we're just outsiders looking in. I think the other thing that I look at when I kind of read this over and I listen to your comments and I listen to everyone's comments is that it's almost a art imitating life. Here's a person who was responsible for his hair, his looks, his appearance, with a chance to say, here's what this cat was about. Here's some things that, salient points that I feel I took from it. Not that everything has to be a whitewash or it has to be a great thing, but there is a chance to tell your story in a succinct way to bring it together. And if anybody's reading it and they feel like it's scattered, then you have to say, okay, what did I get from this? You kind of follow me?
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it's like, and again, I understand it's going to be about Prince, but it has to be about her too. And I guess what I mean by that is, it's showing some things about Prince, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but in terms of like, there's sort of a presentation in this of how he may be disrespectful to women and sort of trying to explain why she feels that way, which, okay, mm-hmm. I can kind of see what you're trying to do with that. But the other part, but I think the thing is you have to be careful. Like you said, it's a different time. So if you're going to sort of go with that narrative with him, you have to also weigh like how the people you want to read this are going to take it. And I think one way you deal with that is, well, then you have to put yourself on blast too, like show your growth and things that maybe you might have been doing in your life or whatever, and how you sort of learned things and came out of that as well. So if you're gonna go into, his personal stuff and that's what you choose to do, then I'm kind of like expecting you to go into yours. I want to see your, you should be able to have humble enough to put yourself out there, a little bit more, so at least I could understand why you're doing this or see your growth as well. And I just kind of felt like it's more about some of the dysfunction with Prince as opposed to if there are any with Kim. And I'm careful when I say that. I'm not trying to drag Kim anything like that either. I'm just saying, like, you kind of want to see that too, because when you hear her speak, she has such a great personality. It's so easy to get caught up into Kim, and it's because it probably is genuinely she's a fun person and she's almost really very down to earth. I kind of wanted to hear a little more of that down to earthness in the book. You see what I'm saying? Right. You want to understand what makes this person who was around him doing his hair so colorful as an individual. Right. And I get it. And I do understand the other points you just made, which is that what I'll call, what you said is that it came off like he was disrespectful towards women. Let me tell you something. I've been around a lot of different artists over 40 years. Let's call one person's disrespect, let's just generalize it and call it artistic behavior, is a characteristic that follows all of these situations, no matter where on the arc that entertainer happens to be. What that means is if you're with somebody at the height of their peak or on their way up, you will see behavior and hear things out of their mouth that are just as much from inexperience and altitude sickness as they are from arrogance and assuredness. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Consequently, if you are with an entertainer and they are on their way to the plateau and they're just evening off at top, or they're slightly on the decline because they haven't done something, or for whatever part they're on, you will find at all times there will be a flash, and it's like somebody hit them on the head, and all of a sudden, bang, artistic behavior flares up. Right? And I'm being nice when I say artistic behavior. We could call it disrespectful shit. You call it whatever you want to call it. It's basically the things that happen when they're byproducts of a pathology of the entertainment business, because when you're
at the top or you're doing something, there's a tendency of a lot of people to give you your way, get you what you need, make you comfortable, and all these other euphemisms that we use in order to deliver the hit for the contractual time that's been dealt, right? If we want to just get it right down to the nitty-gritty. And so I think it would be very easy to say, oh, wow, he didn't, or portray any of that. But realistically, that's with every entertainer at a certain level. Sometimes it happens more often than not. And it has a lot to do with who they are inside, and it has a lot to do with environment. The person that I met during the time that I met them, we didn't go through too much artistic behavior, but he could be very very snappy at times, and he could be very direct at times, and he could also play if he knew somebody like me was not prone to playing and was always trying to do their best. So he knew how to play the gamut of things, but it was never, I never felt it was malicious, right? So I never took it like that. And of course, we're also two males, and we're also at a different time in our lives.
Right.
But I will just say this from my experience dealing with all different types. I understand what artistic behavior is. So when that vein of, it was disrespectful towards women, because I also saw the other side where he was very reverential towards women. He understood the power and the key difference in having women involved in and around him. And he really utilized that, and he really had a good way of selecting women who were very powerful and very good at what they did. So I can't really go with that one. Could he be a hard taskmaster? I think probably if you look over the years, yeah, probably could. Got very unreasonable with some of the requests, and probably early on. I know I was on a panel with one of the theaters, and I was listening to some of the early PR people and management people. Yeah, he could be a very difficult taskmaster. But again, that difficulty was bred out of the superstar system that we were in back then. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So it doesn't justify it. It just explains how you get that. Because in today's entertainment space, it still happens. It just looks very different, and it happens quickly because it's just a different kind of crowd now. It's a different kind of crowd now. And truthfully, there were so many people involved back then. Today, we don't really have the budget or the time for the crew that's going to follow and make sure all that's right. And you look at anybody who's still around. The handlers they have today are lesser in number than they were in the 90s. They're lesser today than they were in the 80s, if they're fortunate enough to still be around. So they might still have their rider with their unreasonable requests and all their stuff. But the bottom line is the entertainment model can no longer support the idiosyncratic behavior of somebody who's got altitude sickness just because they can sing good, dance good, or do whatever. It timed out. We don't have that kind of the processing time anymore because there's always some new talent coming up that's willing to do whatever for whatever.
Or less.
And it's curated so that, okay, cool. And then pretty soon all that artistic behavior moves down the street because people don't have time for it. Oh, we were going to get them, but we don't have space for this and this. And I always say, and this isn't to be mean for any people who are fans, but I always say that, in today's economy, if some acts, it would be hard to do certain things because we don't have the money. In the years past, Pepsi and a bunch of other people, they had the money to afford Michael and the Monkey, right? And all of the idiosyncratic behavior. We don't have that kind of economy now. So when you look at the entertainment economy and the dollar, you have to look at, okay, how can we be effective and do what we got to do? Man, we have brand relationships that we have to manage. We have culture we have to be honorary to. A lot of that wasn't going on. We have so many things now that have changed. And so I know, we're talking about the book, but I'm just talking about this behavior because I think it's easy to write it off when somebody says something in a book and doesn't put it in context.
Right. No, that's important. When you're dealing with somebody as culturally large as Prince is, you have to sort of look at the bigger picture. It can't just be, you got mama.
And it's not to be mean to say she has no right to say it. Everybody has the right to say it. Everybody got the right to do, the thing. I just think that as I read through it, I was like, I felt like that was good. Keep going. But, I'm going like, dang, man, it'd be good to even, what if we just said all the dynamic hairstyles, just tell a story about each of the hairstyles that was pivotal during the time that you did, and then the journey to that hairstyle or whatever, because she has told that live in some things, but it would have been a good consistent theme, because I always like hearing about her growing up, because I grew up in the same area of town. So I understand that whole experience of growing up in South Central, the whole Crenshaw thing, I get it. And so I think there are a lot of things, and possibly if there is another book, maybe it's, people give enough feedback that she'll have another way to look at it. I think everybody has their right to talk about their time and do it. It's just that it's under such scrutiny right now, because when you look at the previous books that are out, and if we just take Afshin's book and Steve Park's book, these guys were lucky enough to have photo releases. So that helps them propel their books further out, because they can have major publishers, they can have more structure, they have more stuff to work with, and then they can take time on their verbal journey, right? Because they have pictures to create a narrative. When you doing something based on the service provider community, and I'll put Kim in the same boat that I'm in if I said I was going to write a book, then you're confined to having possibly not only use whatever pictures you can get a hold of, but you're going to have to use animations, you're going to have to use whatever you can use to make sure you can achieve your goal if you don't necessarily have the backing of a major publisher. So there are a lot of things about writing a book, just the granular details, that if you are going to do it on your own, you've got to have a strategy that is based upon that which you can control. And especially now where you have the transitional part, and you've experienced this, of the family is involved. So at every point, if you want to use something that's vaguely stepping on their grass, you're going to have to deal with that legal battle.
Right. I'm going to shift gears just for a little bit here, Dave. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, what were some of the favorite moments or moments in the book that you liked? Like, I'll make sure we kind of give both sides here. Kanisa, was there anything in the book that you enjoyed reading or was new to you?
Definitely her past, because I resonated with that, especially when she talked about the type of school she went to and what the representation was like there, and her experience with the recommendations that were made to her as far as what her future could be. Because I had a similar experience at my school where I was one of a few Black people, and my counselor said that I wasn't very smart, and I ended up going to Georgia Tech and doing fine and everything. But that's a dynamic, and it helps to, it's kind of why I wish there was more of that to help explain what her perspective was. Because she did talk about how she was very much in a church, and how her upbringing was not strict, but she was held to a standard herself, to where later it informs her opinion of Prince and women, for example. So we just needed more of that to understand, why she's saying what she did. But I appreciate the bit that she did offer as far as where she was coming from and how that might have informed her own decisions and her own perspectives.
Yeah, I agree with that. That early school stuff I thought was, to me, I was reading that, I was like, I could see this on the screen a little bit, reminded me like The Wood or something like that. I was like, I kind of see this play. Yeah. Bigsexy. Any parts that stood out for you?
That school portion stood out for me too, because I too went through a similar thing while I was in high school for those 30 seconds, and one of the counselors felt, he needed to tell me, what my limitations were. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't know me, man. You need to take that somewhere else. How she responded to that by going in a different direction is great. I enjoyed hearing about, again, how this came about for her. But on the flip side, I want to hear more about the music, about, the touring, about, the different locations. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Mike, about, doing something with all the different hairstyles. That's a book right there. In 92 he was doing the whole typhoon thing because he was trying to achieve this. Okay, cool. That's a book. Again, a lot of the more intimate details of a relationship that no one, including the author, were involved in, that's just not cool. That's just not cool. I'm not going to say that she had a ulterior motive. I'm not prepared to go that far. I think she got some bad advice on this, and I don't think it was planned out as thoroughly as it could have been, and it could have been a lot better. A lot better.
All right. One thing that was interesting to me when she talked about D'Angelo's visit to Paisley Park, and I'm a big D'Angelo fan, so I was like, and I knew that he had been there with Quest, but this sounds like it was a visit even before the first album dropped, which I had never heard about. And what she said, the conversation between Prince and him was, I found that to be very interesting. But it was just cool to me because I like to hear how Prince is like, trying to mentor or at least share some game with, younger artists about what you're about to get into, and would that be a hell of a thing to receive that from somebody of Prince's magnitude, to actually take the time out and really sit down and chop it up and, telling you these things. Also I imagine the other side of the industry in that young artist's ear with all of the trinkets and, promises and stuff. And then to hear a guy who you probably like idolize, or obviously one of the biggest guys in the game, sitting here probably telling you, yo, almost saying don't do it. So I would have been very interesting to hear more of that. And what else? There's something else. I liked hearing about her salon. Like, I wish there was a little bit more information about that, because I was curious to like what happened with that, and I don't think she answers that in the book. What happened with the salon, or she mentioned some of the. I thought it was pretty. Yeah. One thing she mentions like some of the stuff that they were doing, like the HIV testing and some of the welfare programs. Like, what? I was like, word. Okay, let me hear about this. And when did this happen? That's the only other thing I was kind of a little curious of, what years this happened. And then that Prince came down. He was out there standing on the street and pandemonium. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So things like that I thought were interesting. The other thing I wished she could have done, because I imagine a lot of people who were into hair. That's the other thing too. I think this book would have been a great book for people that may not even necessarily been Prince fans per se, but who wanted to get into doing hair on a big level, where she probably could have actually had pictures showing how to do some of these hair designs, or at least even maybe she did them on other people's head and say, here, I'm going to do the typhoon in the book and show you this is what it looks like from all angles, or here's that Halle Berry style cut, and this is why did he have that shaved part in his head, things like this. This is what you do, you the hairstylist. So those would have been the pictures she should have had. They don't have to be Prince in those pictures, but it would have been the hairstyles of Prince, right? So you could really get a sense of all of them and be able to show you, and here's the products I think somebody mentioned that earlier, here are the products that we use. How was his hair? I know she said it was tender, but like, what happened with, was, what I mean? So just those types of things. I think a lot of people, I'm not gonna just say just sisters, but a lot of people who do hair could probably get a lot of good game about that. How do you deal with celebrity clients, you know what I'm saying? And conduct yourself and da-da-da. So those are the sort of things I would like to. Go ahead.
Especially because that's something that you hear a lot in the industry now, how when it comes to celebrities or people working in movies and things like that, they don't have a lot of black hairstylists to do the black people's hair. And it's like, we want to know, because again, I'm natural hair. I want to know how she did the fro later, like what products were used. She has a one page that had some products, but how do you manage a Black person's hair when they're on the move so much and keep it healthy and stuff like that? That is very valuable to know even for a layperson.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and just how she started the business specifically, and she mentioned about the first ladies of the church. I thought that was like, okay, yeah, I need to hear about this. You know what I'm saying?
I thought the church stuff and the stuff about her mom was good, and could have gone on about that, because that tells a lot about a person and where they get it from. I thought when she referred to the black card, you can't refer to a black card and not go into detail.
Exactly.
Right? So the nature of a black card itself, when it is whipped out in a inner city capacity, is enough to just go on and on about. But I just thought the same thoughts you guys are having is like, wow, this would have been so cool to hear that. But again, like I said, what we're getting is a view to someone who did his hair. And if we back away from a distance and we look at, okay, when you're getting somebody ready and you're giving them the look they need to go do the bigger thing that they do, you are doing what? You are giving a treatment to the surface to get it ready to deliver whatever they deliver, which means you have a view that is entirely clear when it comes to looking at the surface. Right? Looking at the hair, looking at the this, spending time with them when they're in the chair, and they're trusting you to give them the look that they need. Doesn't mean that you're in the deep thoughts of their mind, or you're in the deep core of their mind. They're in your chair, and that is a vulnerable time, as most people can attest to when they've ever been in that chair. Right? So I think that it's in a bigger sense, she was probably there and was privy to when things were happening during this time and conversations, but not knowing the details, the only thing you can probably do is mention some of it, because some of it, there's comments in and out laced all in that just refer to different things, and they're kind of like timestamps, right? But again, they're so critical because in his life, everything that he did for a reason and the intention. So when you mention it, it's like, oh, wow, that was going on too. And then it creates another vine off the tree that you want to go and get interesting content from, if it's there to get. So I just, again, it's not, who is, we're all onlookers to what's going on. But I think it could have been more. Yes, I agree with Bigsexy. You can't write a book and pull the rug out and go, okay, maybe next time we'll get to that. And then you're charging up the wazoo. It's kind of hard. You got to give people value for their dollar, because the book market is a very sensitive market. And you got to look at everything everybody else is presenting. We have, I don't know how many books we have by now, Michael. How many books are there regarding Prince? And how many books have come out since he's died? Kanisa?
Oh, I don't know that. It's about number, but they're always self-published for the types of ones that are like this. Besides my tapes.
Right, but I think just in general, a lot of titles have appeared.
There's been a lot of books,
a lot of titles.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything one way or the other. It means that it's a very competitive field, and people are doing their utmost to try and make whatever it is their point of view as valid as possible. Like I said, I think the first books that include pictures, they definitely set the mark, because they're able to extend his presence even stronger, especially in light of the state of the situation. And so I think those books actually did some good, because they helped give people imagery, and they helped give people pathos to the story that wasn't so bumpy, right? Because every time we looked to the real thing, it was not giving us what we've come to expect. So I think there's a lot of things that those books did that are the setup for the expectation that now is on everybody who says, I'm going to come out with a book.
Yeah. Let me ask this question before we wrap things up, and I got to ask this: was there, and sometimes I've seen people accuse this of being obviously a lot more gossipy type of a book. And I I see that at parts, but I'm curious, am I wrong in thinking that some of the commentary on, it was a term she used that had me dying though, the fly-by-nighters in Prince's world, and was that a little chatty patty like these or was
it goes back to perspective, right? Because I mean,
yeah,
it depends, because she explained how she came up and how she was held to a standard. So if you see a lot of women around him, you're going to think it's a certain kind of way. But at the same time, it's like, what else could he do? So, I mean, it's perspective. And, you know, some people are going to be bothered by that. Some are. I don't really care, because I'm like, sure, if I were Prince, I would do the same.
All right.
Yeah. Again, that's that area that we'll call artistic behavior. Right.
Artistic behavior. I'm gonna use that.
Well, I'm just saying this. You know, it's a gray area in past, and because of Me Too and other things, we now have a very flipped universe where we that doesn't really exist a lot now, because everybody's so tactically scared that every time something happens, it's going to be someone's femininity weaponized against them. Right. So it's a different kind of environment now, and part of the reason why we're in that environment now is because the environment before was so far on the other side of the number line, you know. And then, but you actually had people who were willing to go that far. So it's a really strange thing. I think some of the things, some of the comments are catty, some of the comments are. It's no different than me. When somebody asks me something, well, what I think about this, and I categorize anything that's crazy in his world, from bobbleheads to all this other shit. I just call it all coffin humping, right? So you could call that a sweeping generalization. But the bottom line is that's my opinion. That's what it is, because it's like, this shit's unorganized. It's not this, and it's like, just let's look at the total picture and try to figure out what everybody's presenting, what they're trying to say, and is it going to stay in line with what everybody should really be doing, which is just honoring what's going on and helping to kind of sustain this until everybody can get their ducks in a row. Gotcha. I think that's the best thing to do. But there were some comments. I saw a couple of those in here too that were very, I guess you call them jabs. Is it jabs? Mm-hmm. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah. Shots fired.
Shots fired. Yeah. and I think, again, I think that is it her place to fire shots? I don't know, but maybe that's again, we don't know what her writing style is. Usually when you write your first book, and I can say this from experience, when you write your first book, you sometimes try to develop your style within the delivery of the first book. Okay. And part of it is, if you've never written a book, you kind of model your book after something that was your favorite sometimes. So you just try and develop a way where people can understand what it is you're saying, and it's almost like they're having a conversation with you.
Yeah, with that said...
And if you can do that...
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to me, with that said, I would like... The ultimate way to probably experience this book, and I don't know if it's available yet or if it will be, but I almost felt like it would have been better suited as an audio book, spoken from Kim, right? Like,
what?
To hear
that's
it that
powerful.
way.
That would have been powerful. Yeah, powerful.
The last thing I wanted to touch on, and I can't ignore it, so we're going to jump on this and to talk about it real quickly. There is... a lot of conversation. There's going to be pushback on any book. That's part of the game. You're going to get pushback. But should she be canceled? There are fans out there in the community that are hot over this book, as they were for my taste and others. But there obviously there are people that are mad. Let me say this: I can understand those who may have prepaid. And, there's the production delays, whatever that is, I understand. But I can understand those people being mad. To me, it reminds me of the Crystal Ball situation back in the day. For those who remember, a lot of people pre-ordered for that. It was available in stores before those people who paid the pre-orders got theirs. And that was a whole big thing at the time. And again, like I said, I understand that a lot of people pre-ordered this book, haven't gotten their physical copies yet. Idiots like me who didn't put no money down, reading it for free from Kindle, I would be hot. Like, whoa. So I can understand that. But I'm talking about those who are pissed to the point where they're giving the book away for free. Real talking, everybody has a right to say what they want to say. But I'm curious, is it to that level? I instinctually, when I see all that type of stuff, I may not speak out in public, but instinctually, I'm like, I get it, but for better or for worse, I don't know, Bigsexy will say something about this. I want to be like, nah, don't come at the sister like that. Like, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing, but come on now. I see it as something else, and it may not be something else, but I'm curious what you guys think. And I'm going to start with Bigsexy. Should she be held to the fire? Is it more than others, or am I just reaching? What's your opinion?
For a person who, like you mentioned, who did go through the investing process and didn't get it or wasn't satisfied, that's entirely within their purview, because I didn't do it. But if I had, I'd have been bent. Now, having said that, I'm aware of this person who was so taken aback by things that he's giving it away. That is not cool. That is not cool. Again, I don't think Kim is a bad person. I don't think she's trying to, mislead anybody. I just don't think she's good at this craft. I think she's also guilty, and tell me if I'm using this properly, of clout chasing. I think, did I say that right?
You said it right.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I think she's more concerned. Let me rephrase that. It appears as if she's more concerned about, look at me, I'm a star too. Come see me on these book tours because I'm all that and that type of deal. And again, if it's in her head, that's how she needs to market her brand, so be it. I'm not one for canceling anyone who hasn't done something malicious. And I don't get a malicious vibe off of her at all. Again, the person who is giving the book away, dude, nah, that's not cool. You can feel free not to like it. You can rip it in a review, but to go to that next level, that's too much. That's too much. I think at some point, Kim should answer a lot of these questions, because there are a lot of questions that need to be addressed by her in a timely manner, because, again, I'm trying not to throw names around, but I do know there are people whose work was in that book and they said, take me out of that book. That needs to be addressed. But I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people on the negative are making it come out to be. No.
Nisi?
Yeah, same. I said in my review that I don't believe in dragging and I don't believe in cancel culture. And even if someone has done something you don't agree with, it's a lot for you to spend a lot of energy spending your entire day dragging this woman across the internet. And there's this quote that I love by Marianne Hasna. She says, you say you don't like something, and yet you keep focusing on it, talking about it, getting emotional, and giving it your creative energy. How's that working out for you? So that's kind of my take on any of that type of thing, like canceling it. Like, you can ignore it, and then it can go away, or you can keep talking about it and, do the opposite of what you're trying to intend and get people more interested, like that whole no publicity is bad publicity thing. But like Bigsexy said, like, next time she should read some of this, though, because it's valid concerns. But also at the end of the day, I've read books that are about Prince that are also like this, and no one knows about it because no one talked about it. So just figure out what your place in. If you don't agree with this book, then you can also let it just fade into oblivion like all the others.
Do you think is there something else there?
Yeah. Are we going to go there?
Man, hey, this is
so when this,
when
the hair stuff happened, everybody was very upset about it. I was upset about it. Honestly, I was very angry. But looking at the comments about it, it got racist pretty quick. And there were like people putting pictures up of her, making fun of her, calling her all kinds of names, which I think is always inappropriate. And it And it hurts a little bit. It was like I wanted to defend her, but I also couldn't because it was like, it was shady that you did that. But it also invites, a lot of not bad feedback, an extra hit when a Black person does it, or especially a woman of color. It's like 10 times worse, and everybody drags them for whatever patriarchal or racist things that are in society. And especially the way Prince fans are online, most of them don't look like me. So it's like, it's projection of mine for when Kim gets so much grief, that it's like, how much of it is because of what she's done, which is valid, that people would be upset about that, but also how much of it is ingrained just demonization of either Black people or Black women, especially, where people like to tear on us a lot. So it's complicated.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go to Dave next, but real quick, Dave, I just want to say I'm gonna go to you, and I can kind of agree with that, because it's like, giving basically bootlegging somebody's new release. Like, if you didn't. So I might assume that that person didn't like, fucking Avengers or something. They would go and find somebody who filmed the movie, and then they would provide a link online. Man, that movie sucks. Don't even pay for it. Just watch it for free. You wouldn't go to that level of madness if it was other stuff. And I wonder, are they just going this hard for other reasons? Not because, to me, it's like, you can be a fan of Prince, but I don't remember no part of the Prince experience where it was, if you hate, you got to hate something that bad that you would just like try to get it shut down, or like, just go to such a degree of foolishness. And I say the same thing with the Jesse Johnson situation. Like, I can understand you being upset about it, but would you really be going that hard if it was Bieber or somebody else that, you know what I mean? They don't go that hard for nobody. It seems like they go extra hard when it's us. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think what you're feeling is, and this goes both ways. When it's us, look, I deal with this on a daily basis. I just got finished dealing with a job where we had a contractor who was a Black contractor because somebody sought out the use of a Black contractor to promote keeping projects within the community. And the Black contractor proceeded to take advantage of the situation and really, abuse it to the point of where they ended up getting fired, right? But the bottom line is that what it does is it makes it hard for the next person who comes along. So as an old school person who, when I came along, there wasn't that many opportunities, I try and make it easier in the way I conduct myself in the marketplace, so that the next young person coming behind me won't have the same story that I had to tell. They at least can say, you know what, even if I helped give them a hand, or at least I did enough business that was cool to where they didn't have it as rough. And so when opportunity for the next person is what we set up when we have these experiences, and it allows us to write books and be reflective and say things and affect people's lives. But it's a lot of power. As much as everybody talks about, as much as God is mentioned in the book, I'm going to be spiritual for a second and go that there is life and death in the power of the tongue. So you really have to watch what you say, how you say it, and know that when you're doing this, you're not just doing it for the immediacy of the moment of reflecting on Prince because he is gone. No words are going to bring him back or any of that. But you are planting seeds that somebody else is going to read. And they're either going to be inspired by what you read, or they might think your comments are incendiary. And then for that, you need to really understand, let me see what they're saying. As Kanisa said, hopefully she will take all these comments and all this information as feedback. So if there is intent on doing something more, then it can come back around. I don't know why the response is so visceral within our community. I don't know why. I just know that as a older person in our community, when I see what I'll call black on black crime, right? For lack of a better term, right? It doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel sad because we work so hard as a people to just be able to function. And then when we have these situations where people can show that, their prowess and what they're good with. And our shit just looks like such a traffic accident. It tears everything apart, and it's really destructive on many levels, even to the point of where sometimes our responses are just as chaotic as the behavior that the responses are upset by, right?
Yes.
So it's a world of extremes. Everybody's operating in the extreme. So, and we have that clapback culture, remember, that we're in right now. The clapback cancel culture that not only says, I don't like it, but they're going to announce that they don't like it, and they're going to say what they're going to do, and they're going to call their neighbor across the fence. You don't like it either, and they're going to really get into it, and that's a new thing too. Everybody shouting back at the TV, except now we can hear everybody shouting back at the TV.
Right.
It's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, let me have a conversation with the family real quick. And I want to. You just said some great things, and we're kind of going on. There's certain context that I think some of us would look at this in the situation, and it's like, and you got to look at Prince the same way. Prince, and bear with me, people, as I navigate through this. Prince was a black person who understood the dynamics of being a black man in America, doing the music that he was doing and who he was trying to reach. He obviously knew how to conduct himself optically, right? And I'm talking about how he looks and how his presentation, how that would be perceived, and how he needs to do certain things so that he can elevate to the next level. I would say his whole first part of the career was the understanding the optics of things and how it all plays into it. Like the music can be the music, but the way this thing looks and how it's being presented to the mass people, if I'm trying to get to the top of the top, I got to understand that move. So visually, I got to present this a certain way. The quality is always going to be there, but it all intertwines, right? And then when I get to where I need to be, I can do certain things and understand visuals and the music, but I understand what I'm playing to and where I'm trying to get to later in life. You can understand, okay, I got the power now. I may not have to play these games that way. I can put a different presentation up there, and maybe I want to switch the visuals now that I have some power, blah, blah, blah. Some of you are getting what I'm saying. But you made a point, Dave, and you said, as an older person, and just even to me, a person who got a little game about themselves, we know that we got to put our best foot forward at all times. Mm-hmm. We don't have an opportunity to be half-assing it because some people already going to be looking and have an assumption that, as we heard earlier, and as you heard in the book, like, oh, you're not even smart enough to go to this school. What are you doing? You should be over here trying to learn a trade or blah, 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 blah. 2 people on this panel have said that has happened. So we know that we got to come our A game. And when we see other people that look like us and they getting ready to do something, we always pray like, oh, please, do it right now.
Show up with your A game.
Yeah. or when you hear something on the news, and some of us be like, please don't let that be us. Right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, so I think for me, I'm speaking my person. I'm gonna put no words in my mouth. When I saw Kim I was like, yo, this is a black woman who was there with this king doing his thing. We don't see that very often. Mm-mm. I want to see her win, and she's great. The story was there, the personality, everything is there. So, oh man, I can't wait. Yes, this is gonna be good, and I know she's gonna come A game because again, the same audience, mass audience Prince was playing to understand the maneuvering of that. It's the same audience that's gonna read this book, right?
Yeah.
And so
you got to remember one thing.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me cut you off. You got to remember one thing. Cancel culture tries to do this thing where they X you out. You cannot cancel Kim's work.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So that's the reason why you have to understand that this is a person who, like all of us, is grieving as well. So I
sure.
still grieve for the situation. She still grieves for the situation. So part of that is what you're reading too. And if people have some empathy for what goes on, you cannot be involved in someone's creative life and contribute that much. This is the person who coiffed his hair before he came out and messed everybody up doing what he did. So that is not a role to be taken lightly.
Not at all. And let me get back on the train here. So when you see the situation with the book coming out, you're praying like, yo, do it on the up and up now. Have all the T's, everything crossed. It's gonna be right, because you can't put this out. They gonna come for you if it's not right. They would do that in general. But I say this to say sometimes what I'm seeing now, and when I said instinctually, we kind of like, because I already know, like, you can't give them a little bit. You can't give them a chance to cut you down, because they're going to look for anything. And some of them going to go extra hard, and they don't even know that they're doing that. And then some of them might be surprised. Well, why are you saying this, Mike? Or certain people pushing back. Well, because it's that same thing I'm trying to put in context. We want to see ourselves win. And I say I'm talking about black people, because sometimes we've been the minority, or we're not necessarily always the dominant one. And so sometimes our voices get drowned out. It's the same. I'm trying to explain. It's the same thing where, look at Jussie Smollett. I was one of the first people saying, man, he looked crazy out here. What is he doing? And then it started to turn a little bit. And some of us instinctually started to be like, well, man, okay, or I hear y'all criticism, but y'all can leave him alone now. Like, we get it. It's going a little too far. It's the same way when certain people cheered when OJ got off, certain people didn't. And they was like, well, why are they cheering? He's a murderer. But it's deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at it as something else. And I'm just saying, I'm looking at this a little bit as I want her to come with the A game, because it has to be great. It can't be a half book and this and that and the third. Give these people what they want. Same way with Prince. Like, he came overexceeding, he overabundance of greatness. He didn't come with no whack stuff or was nothing to question, because he ain't got time. We're not in a position where we can come lacking. We got to come with greatness on all levels, and we respond to that when we see that. So we didn't look at Prince like, oh man, he just bullshit. No, he's not giving them no excuses. He's great. And I just feel like if you coming from that lineage, whatever time you work for him, then the expectation is that you got to come with that as well. And so like I said, I just want her to, like, if you're going to do the next book, that's cool. But I would only just say, like, if I would suggest maybe like packing it in, man, and really over delivering. It ain't gonna never hurt you to over deliver. Because I want to see it win. I think it's a great story. There's great stuff in this book. I don't want people to ban it either. But again, people have their opinions, and I respect that. But I just want to see it. You know what I'm saying? We always want to see the stuff that we do be great. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to see it not be halfway. The same way if I was doing this podcast, I don't want to be like, oh man, Mike, he just kind of half-timing with it. And I hope that's not how it's perceived. And if it is, I will listen to the feedback, right, and try to improve. But I know that we don't get so many opportunities, so we got to come with the greatness. Hopefully y'all understood a little bit what I was trying to say here. But yeah, I mean, this, and I'm saying that too because I know Kim is going to listen to this, and this is not the Drag Kim show. This is not the Cancel Kim show. This is out of love, right? We chopping it up. We have Dave here. We got Nisi here, Bigsexy, myself. So we want to see it win. You know, we're just giving our opinions. And when you put something out there, you have to expect people to give their opinions.
That's true.
But
that's true.
Yeah, man. So I got she got a little hot over here from me. Y'all got me on.
I think she understands that everybody's coming from a real cool place, but I think it's also hard that the community is so close, and everyone has gotten so close so fast that sometimes I think everybody has to understand the things, the ups and downs emotionally that all of us go through at different points. Everything triggers everything. So I can't read a headline, I can't see something without it triggering some kind of memory. And so we love talking about it, we love dealing with it, but for all of us now, it is a thing of always trying to get the most out of it and come from the super best place we can in this recovery. And it's a 3-4 year recovery trail we're on, right? Mm-hmm. Of loss. And so no matter what, we still got to support one another and be there for one another. And that even means in constructive conversations and things like that. So,
and you know,
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Last thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna shut up. I would say too, man. Like as for us, and I would say the preacher. You know, I'm almost finished now, but I'm speaking as from a fan. I'm just speaking for myself. Some other fans may feel it's not. When y'all, I'm talking to you, Dave. I'm talking to Kim or whoever else. Y'all. So we look at y'all work with Prince, and you know, y'all can share some of the inside stuff. But I say this: if there's issues in the family, them issues and conversations, they need to be handled behind closed doors, or hopefully y'all come with a united front and can come to agreement before y'all put out books and things. Because the whole, you know, and that's what I say. Shout out to Maite and stuff. That's what I said earlier. If that was my family and somebody in my team came with something like that, that would be a violation. But I would only assume that was discussed beforehand, and y'all coming together. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just saying if you're gonna go and delve into people's situations like that, it's in your best interest if you want us as the people who's spending money on it to come with a united front, because that stuff looks kind of crazy. Like when you're really talking about personal family business in these streets, this is not a good look at all. Like so you got to they got to get that cleaned up. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing, the real thing that probably rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Because I just think of how if someone did that to us personally, you know, it'd be wartime for some people. They go to war with stuff like that. So I can only hope that, you know, the sensibilities of respect can be greater than the sensibilities of chasing the bag. Right. That's true. Like I said, for a lot of us, especially me, because I wasn't from that time, but I have enough tact to have never had to have an intentional conversation about it with anybody, Scotty or anybody, because Scotty knew, Scotty came up during the time of Maite and all through that period. And so, but we never had any formal conversation, say, oh, well, can I say something about the we don't talk like that, because the bottom line is that we understand how we are and how the situation is. And so, and how we're both family people. So how we view that whole thing, dealing with the spouse and the other side of life, you know, and it's just everybody's different, man. Everybody is different. So and it is a unique situation that she had a view to. So, you know, that's the other challenging point is that when you're allowed this view, do you say anything about it or do you remain silent? You know, if I decided to write a book, I'll put it like this. If I decided to write a book, Michael, and I would include in the book all the times that were private that I viewed, I would not be having this conversation with you. I would be on an island somewhere doing quite well, right? because there's a lot of things, but people don't need to know all those things, because it has nothing to do with the, you know, what the good that's going on. That's just what is, you know. And sometimes this TMZ culture that we live in wants to make everything scandal sheet. And it's not, I don't think, you know, no offense to TMZ, but I mean, they kind of hype that aspect of it to present all the stuff, you know, but I don't think we have to live in that space in order to do that. I think it's, you know, it will be tactful. I think everybody will get their fine line. I think if there was
if there was a cancel culture, so to speak, there's a lot more people in this situation with him and what happened that need to be canceled. And there need to be, you want to write some books and talk some shit. I got a whole list. That's another show. But I think there's a lot more stuff that we could do that would still be reverential, but it would also help clear the decks of the bullshit. So I think that's a large part too. That the fan community, as well as the family and the people that worked around him, we view everything. We've viewed it all we all have viewed everything for the same period of time. So just the same way we mourn and miss him, the same way we're tired of some of the bullshit.
There you go.
And so it's very easy to write off some things and categorize them as bullshit when we don't understand the full perspective. So while I don't want to see her written off and put in that direction, I think that we have to understand everybody's perspective. And I say everybody's now because it's not just these selective groups. When he passed away, we all became one family because we all are without him, right? And so that's the difference, is that we are going through this thing together. Every time we get together and talk, it's in remembrance of something that was really cool, And so we all have that reverential thing, and it's that's part of what makes us feel okay after we have these conversations.
Well, man, we're gonna end it on that, man. We're all in this together. I feel that.
Yeah, man.
All right, Bigsexy InSac. Where can people find you online, sir?
I hate this.
What's with these groans, man?
What's going on?
I can be found on Facebook, Mark Wiggins, Instagram, Mark Wiggins 2, Twitter, WSE Mark, and shout out to the Full Force Brothers.
All right. We'll get you some Dayquil, man. We'll get you back on your feet.
Yeah.
Kanisa, where can people find you online?
Darling Nisi on Twitter as well as on Tumblr.
All right. And also shout out to Muse the Pharaoh.
Whoop, whoop.
All right. And Mr. Hampton, sir, where can people connect with you?
They can reach me through Michael Dean, or you can find me at reftone.com. You can reach me there. All right. I'm always available. My information hasn't changed. Right. I don't do I have Twitter, but I don't really tweet a lot. And but if anybody has any questions, they want to do it, you guys want to talk about anything or do anything, Michael Dean, you can always reach me through Michael and whatever you guys want to do. And are you guys all going to Minnesota next week?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
no.
going. Bigsexy, I don't think it's going.
No.
We're going to get him out here one of these years. But you're not going, are you, Dave? Are you going to be out there in town? Or?
Not as of yet. I have a real big commitment out here, and I can't really turn away from that until we make some progress. So okay. I'd love to be there though, but I'm going to be in Detroit with the PRN alumni.
Okay.
At the next,
If you can, Dave, who are some of the people you're working with right now, if you can say?
I'm still working with RZA. Okay. And I'm working with Ray Parker Jr. and I have a project we're doing with Bill Withers. And then I'm working with a group that's called 1500 or Nothing. They're the backup band for Jay-Z and for Bruno Mars. They write all the songs for Bruno Mars. I'm involved in a big project in Los Angeles with 1500 or Nothing, and they have a school out here in Los Angeles called 1500 Sound Academy, and we just did some really good stuff last week. They have probably about 25 students that have just completed their course, and I have a scholarship that we do, Blue Microphone, in tribute to my daughter. So we were able to get a lot of the girls, about 8 girls who were going through the program. We were able to get them a lot of the recording things that they needed, and it was really good. It was the first time we've directed the scholarship at that school in particular. And we got more schools that are going to be doing something with it. I think Cora and I are going to try and do something with Howard University. So there's a lot of things. All of us still stay in touch, so we're all trying to affect change all over. I'm actually going to be out in Minnesota too. I think I'm going to do another school with Manuela. We're going to put in a music lab out there in Minnesota.
Man, beautiful, man. She's doing the work, working like a job.
Working like a job. Like I said, waiting for my T-shirt, Mike.
Yeah, I'll get on that.
Working like a job. I've got my other T-shirt ideas that we can do. Working like a job. I got a couple others I think we do quite well on.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll chop it up about that. Ladies and gentlemen, you can definitely find us at podcastjuice.net. And also, if you are going to be out in the Minneapolis area for celebration, we're going to be doing a live podcast recording at Perkins. This is injunction, or this is a part of the Prince 365 celebration event that is happening there Friday the 26th, which I believe is sold out. So if you already got tickets, we're going to be in the building. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to start recording, I think, around 1 a.m. It's going to be a long night. So if you're going to be there, this should be a good time. If you see me out there, please come and say hello. People be just texting me or hitting me up. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be too nervous. Please, I ain't nobody. So don't do that. Just come up and say hello. We can chop it up for sure. I would love to meet people. I'm trying not to look mad or something. If I am, I'll probably just be nervous myself. So come on up.
Who's some of your guests?
Let's say it again.
Who's some of your guests?
Yeah. Whatever he just said, I didn't hear what you said. But with that said,
no, who are some of your guests?
Oh no, you know what? The guests gonna be the listeners, man. It's just so whoever comes up, everybody's gonna get a chance to get on the mic, and we're just having a good time, man. So won't be any like special guests unless I'm sure there's gonna be people there, but it's just gonna be the family, man. Everybody's the guest, so we're gonna have a good time. With that said, as I always say, work it like a job. We'll see you next time.